Hi, this is Tim with Bird Appliance. Today we're going over the third video in the series on electric analog dryers. This is going to deal with mostly mechanical issues. In the beginning, we looked in the first video at external problems. So if you've kind of corrected venting, things like that, which would be the main cause of problems, we're good there. On the electrical, we've gone through the electrical things first, and the reason why we did that is we want to correct for things not starting, things not heating. The electrical system is what's driving the mechanical things, so it's good to go ahead and go through those. And then really at this point, we're gonna be looking at parts. So again, in any of these videos, if you need help finding parts, we're gonna keep that in the description section because we're gonna give you a step-by-step on how to find parts easily and kind of what to look for. And remember, your parts are gonna be somewhat specific for each machine. So it is important to kind of get an idea at least where the parts are located and what those part numbers are. To get started with these dryers, the whole idea of a dryer is to take this heat, which is in the back of a vent, if you want to think of this whole thing as a duct, okay? The heat is going to need to be transferred efficiently out of the machine all the way through the exhaust. So everything has to be sealed up well because this is actually a vacuum. Your blower wheel is near the end of that vacuum, but everything on this end needs to be nice and tight. It needs to be held together. So there's lots of little pieces in here. You've got drum felts, door seals, drum felts, lint traps, the drum itself. All those things have to be sealed well so that you create a good vacuum. Otherwise, you're going to end up with a bunch of heat building up in this area. Regardless of the operating thermostat, it just can't control for all that heat, and you're going to continue to pop the thermal cutoff that is over in that heat section, so the safety. On the other end, once you get past the blower wheel, you've got the operating thermostat on the blower housing that is also controlling heat, but you have that safety as well. So usually once you've gotten past the blower wheel, most of the problems are going to be in the exhaust section or the external exhaust because that's the last place for the heat to be. But the big thing to understand is this cutoff here may keep popping on you if you haven't corrected for all of the problems. So if you have openings anywhere before the blower wheel, if there's gaps, you're going to create less suction. That's going to build up heat here. But also if you had problems over here at the exhaust, if you had exhaust, that's highly likely you could cause problems here as well as here. So we're going to go through each one of these individually, and we're going to start back here at the heater. So this is the beginning of the duct. Right here, we've already gone over the heater in the electrical section, but this is your heater. What's going to do is going to pull that air in through the back. You've got those vents that are on the back of the panel here. It pulls the heat up through here, and it takes it into the drum. Before we get this open, the first thing you want to do is open the door here and double check the seal. This seal is really important. This is part of the duct itself because it is connected in here to the drum and every bit. The seal here can get worn out, torn up. The other thing that can happen is your hinges may be a little loose, or possibly these door latches and catches on both ends are causing some trouble. The whole system just needs to be nice and snug. If you have any of those issues, you're going to end up with air gaps and you're going to lose your vacuum. So the first thing we do to get inside this dryer to start looking at the vent on the front end is you want to get the lint trap out of the way. One thing to look at is make sure that this section here, this felt, is in good condition. It really is. These don't go bad too often, but this is part of the seal for the duct. So we're going to get that out of the way. So the first thing you want to do is just kind of check the barrel. Look for the felt, run through it like this. Just make sure it's floating and moving smooth. You don't see any tears in the felt here. And there's also some in the front. You just want to make sure it's not wiggling too much. There needs to have some movement. This is fine. But you want to see if there's any gapping. If it comes around too much, and then we can check for that. If you notice you're getting too much wiggle here, or you think you're getting some gaps in the felt, what we're going to do is go inside here in a minute and check to see if everything's in the right place. But that's the first thing we're going to look at. Then we're going to go inside the machine. So and a lot of these machines, you're going to unscrew here and here, and then you're going to be able to pull that front panel out, and we can start looking at that. This is the front drum felt. So when you get this piece off, you want to look into the drum felt, make sure it looks good. It's not easy to judge how good your felt is, but you may hear scraping. Obviously, if you hear scraping when your drum is rolling through here, you'll be able to spot that. On this one, it's not bad. But another trick is if you can get your finger in between this and the drum, so basically when it's put back together, if you can get more than a finger in here, you're losing a lot of this material, and that's going to create a gap possibly down here at the bottom because it's going to hang lower. It's going to open up here, and that's going to create vacuum gaps. So opposite to this felt, you're looking at this plastic here. Sometimes this plastic starts to get caught and it starts to crack away. If that's happening, and you'll be able to see this. So if you don't have a nice clean plastic retainer here, it's going to cause some similar problems. It's going to cause things to hang up. So those two things are what we're kind of looking at to make sure we have good heat flow. On the back drum felt, the first thing you want to do is lift your barrel back up and kind of look for gaps in here. You can kind of see a gap in the bottom here a little bit, but remember there's going to be pressure on this, and there's also going to be a felt back there. This is not necessarily a bad problem, but it's something to be aware of. We're going to inspect the felt a little bit better and then also look for things that cause this rear felt to gap. Now that we have the drum removed, if you did have a broken belt, that's pretty obvious, but you should be putting your drum belt back on. But now that we're looking in here, what we want to do is look for things that look out of place and things that are possibly hanging up and making noise. A few of the things that will make noise in here are your idler pulley. This is the piece that holds the belt. You just want to spin it quickly. If it moves easily, it's probably not an issue. It's going to be the thing that typically will have the high squeal sound to it. The other pieces that will have some noises to them are going to be the roller bearings. This one, as you can see, it does not spin very well, and it's getting chewed on. This is actually probably part of the issue. On the other side, you have one that moves a little bit better. It should not make that noise. They do typically do that if you're wiggling them while they run, but that one looks like it's in better condition. If you notice here on the right side, there's little specks of rubber and things like that. That actually is a very, very good indication that you're losing the rubber on this wheel. This one's lost a bit as well, and you can see some of the rubber down here at the bottom. The issue here is when this rubber goes away, that is actually starting to create that gap down here. So it slows down the machine, number one. It will not be able to turn that drum very quickly. And then secondly, it's going to create gaps in here, which could end up popping the fuses on the heating side. So the other thing you want to look for noise is going to be the motor. You also want to make sure it spins freely. Pretty simple. Just make sure it's moving. If it moves freely, then you shouldn't have too much issue with anything in the back where the blower housing is. We're going to continue to walk through this. This is kind of a comparison of what the two differences are. So you can see more rubber on here. When you do take these off, which if they're stuck like this, you're going to want to do that. That is going to cause a problem regardless if you're in here working. The best thing you can do on the older styles like this is once you take them off, which there's videos on other than this one, just go back with some emery cloth and polish the axle. Polish it good. Do not use light oil. Do not use grease. It just accumulates more junk. When you're trying to identify noises, which can contribute to the heat problems and the function of the machine, you want to listen really closely to how often the noise is appearing. So for example, this machine is spinning. If there's a noise that comes around every second or two, like a clunk, clunk, that's going to be something that's obviously on a larger frame. It's going to be something related to part of the drum. If you hear more of a thump, 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 you could be looking for things like this on the outside of the roller, okay, once you get in there. And then squeals, they're going to end up probably being something inside the axle, or highly likely the axle on the idler pulley, which needs to spin freely. Sometimes these are stuck as well. So we're always looking for things to move freely. Once you've checked out all the seals and the moving parts inside the dryer, the next thing you want to do is check out the blower housing. On this unit, there's the 2 screws in the front on top of the unit where the lint trap is. Those come away, and then you remove these screws down here. This piece will come out. And you want to check seals here like this. This one's pretty deteriorated. It's not the end of the world if you get this fixed, but this is just another seal. Just be aware this one's got a little damage here. Just make sure you can put something back in this spot. And what we're looking for is to see if anything got clogged down in here. You just want to make sure it's moving freely. You want to make sure you didn't pack anything down into the area. This one's pretty clear, but on the front style lint traps, people tend to poke a lot of junk into this area. It's going to reduce flow, but you always want to look in here if you can't find any reason that there is a flow problem. The other thing is that if you're getting noises, sometimes this gets hit by something that got trapped in here, like a nail or who knows. If it does and it's broken, you want to try to get this off. It is a reverse thread, meaning you got to turn it to the right to get it off, but you also have to lock in the motor from the other side. Be very careful. This is a super sharp edge. If you're trying to do this by hand, it is not going to work, because when you finally free it, it will slide your hands into these metal bits and you will cut yourself pretty good. So we're going to show you a quick method just in case. This is a little trick. You do have this problem. It's pretty rare, but we want to show you how to get it off anyway. Between the belt pulley and the motor, there's a small piece of the motor axle that has a flat edge to it. You're going to take your vice grips and find that flat edge. Clamp down on it. Use a piece of wood if you want. You don't have to. You're just going to create knocks in here. It's not the end of the world. We just don't want to damage people's equipment. So you're going to put the wood here. You're going to go to the back and you're going to basically hammer this down. You don't want to just turn and torque it. That's what causes you to cut your fingers. So I'm going to run to the back real quick and show you how to release this wheel. So get your fingers in between the blades like this. Do not keep them close to the edge. Do not push. You want to hammer and just hammer. Once you've made your way through the duct past the blower housing, you really only have a few things left. You've got your thermal fuse. This is the safety that kills power to the drive motor, along with the operating thermostat that we've already gone over in the electrical video. This operates, so it opens and closes to reduce heat to the machine. This is the safety. Really at this point, if you've gotten this far and this keeps popping, if you have already gone through your external bit and saw that there's nothing preventing this from happening, nothing preventing flow, most likely you're going to need to flip out this cycling thermostat with the thermal fuse, because this is a few degrees lower than the safety. So you're going to want to replace those as a pair. And that should help you solve the problem of a repeat on the thermal fuse. Okay, now that we've gone through most of the mechanical stuff, that's going to cover about 80% of the problem. If you've checked these pieces inside the machine, look for things that are moving, look for things that look thicker or less thick when it comes to felts, ultimately what you're trying to do is figure out why it didn't start, why it didn't heat, or where these noises are. Remember that each one of these pieces inside of your exhaust system or inside of that duct is going to contribute to a little less vacuum or a little less or more restrictions, one or the other. And so if you got a few percent here, a few percent here, it adds up. It doesn't have to be perfect, okay? But if you think that you've gotten all this taken care of and your duct is working correctly and that this is all free and clear, then what you're going to look at is if you're popping your cutoff, which is over at the heater, or you're popping the thermal fuse, which is over at the blower wheel, you're going to want to look at flipping out your thermostats. So go ahead and get rid of this operating thermostat and the cycling thermostat, and then replace whichever fuse is the problem. That should resolve most problems. Of course, there's going to be problems that we can't see. Of course, the dryers are not always going to look the same. But if you can follow these kind of basic ideas here, you're going to recover most dryers, probably 80%. When we look at all these parts, the next thing to do is go ahead and try to figure out what matches your machine. Again, we're gonna go down into the description and try to give you an outline on a way to find information on the parts themselves. You should be able to look at the pictures and be able to find that information. And again, thanks again for watching the videos. This is on the electrical analog dryers, and we're gonna try to get more videos out to y'all soon on other equipment.